Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Minions of the Zoo. I'm your host, Johnny Hellcat. How are you guys doing today? Random American, long time no see. Hey, Rotten Corpse, how's it going? It has been a alright day for me. Weren't a lot of people at the Muay Thai today, so I essentially got beat up. So that's how my day went. Yeah, other than that, not much really happening. Work and the like. So yeah, so let's get on to some stories that I actually had pulled up, because there was a couple things that happened that caught my interest. So I am going to start with something that actually I tweeted about this earlier. Let's see if I can find that here. No, he's a little bit darker than a Comanche, like my coach. And actually, it's there's my coach who is black, and the guy I was partnered with for most of the day is Latino, and then yeah, a couple of white guys, and then there's me. Hey, Tyr, how's it going? How's it going, Frosted? Put some interesting happenings on. Like this story out of Bozeman. Police in standoff with armed man in Bozeman. Police are involved in a standoff with a man barricaded inside a residence in Bozeman. According to police, the man is reportedly armed, and the situation began Tuesday at 6:45 p.m. Yeah, that's crazy too. That's an insane story. Police said at 8:30 a.m. on Wednesday, if you live adjacent to residence 400 block of South 20th Avenue, we strongly encourage you to get the fuck out, because that's crazy. There's no word at this point what triggered the standoff. Bozeman Police Chief Jim Veldkamp says the contact with the man has been sporadic. We're doing what we can. We're doing all we can to continue talking with him to negotiate and with him to end this peacefully. Responding agencies include the Bozeman Police Department, Gallatin County Sheriff's Office, and their joint special response team. Let's see here. The public information officer with Bozeman Police told MTN News that Lewis and Clark County's SRT team was also cut out Wednesday. We'll update you. And I think there was an update to this. I believe he committed seppuku. But I'm not sure. I think that is... Let's see if I can find that. Standoff in Bozeman. Update 7 hours ago. Yep, ends with suspect suicide. Standoff ended with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Wonder if there's anything on here. Get this pulled up here. This was from Montana Right Now. as opposed to a little bit later. Standoff ended when BPD located the man dead from self-inflicted gunshot wounds. Wounds? You know, if it's one, I can see. Multiple teams from across the state made efforts to take the man into custody for more than 24 hours without firing any shots before the man was found. Standoff began when BPD was called on December 3rd to respond to a trespassing complaint at a business in town. Dispatch learned the suspect was trying to start a fight and had assaulted an employee at the business before. When police went to the man's house around 7 p.m. the same day, he would not answer the door. Officers entered and found him with a gun in his hand. Police quickly left, closing streets, evacuating the suspect's roommate and neighboring homes. By the evening of December 4th, the man quit responding to negotiators. Officers once again entered the home and found the man dead, their release said. We send our deepest condolences to the family and friends of the deceased man and thank the community for their understanding in this long standoff, Chief Jim Feldkamp stated. These kinds of incidents routinely require long hours from officers, detectives, and staff to try to achieve the safest possible outcome, and we're grateful for the time that everyone took to try and resolve this without harm. Yeah. Bozeman Police announced at 10:55 p.m. Wednesday that the situation on 20th Avenue, South 20th Avenue was quote-unquote resolved. Yeah, I would say that. I guess resolved is a word you can use there. The numbers check out, yeah. Totally self-inflicted with the same caliber as a standard police gun, yeah. Only took 17 shots for him to finish, yeah. Hey Jen, how's it going? Yeah, I forgot I had the change to this, and I'm just like, oh, I'll come back to it. Whatever. It's a great pick. It's the best pick. Let's see. This one, oh, there you are. How's it going, Sanguine?
Been doing great. Just been chilling in the back rooms for a bit.
Oh, I didn't hear the beep.
Yeah,
Let's
jumped in shortly after the 30.
Okay. So you haven't been in there long?
Probably about 10, 12 minutes, something like that.
Okay, so long enough.
But yes, Trumpy Hellcat, I think would be the better way of saying it than Johnny Trump.
Play a sound when guest enters. Yeah, I didn't hear the thing.
Hey, Jen.
So,
yeah, it's nuts, the assassination that happened.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And then the part that I'm going, okay, you should have some indication is, didn't the dude do it on a city e-bike?
Let's see here.
Because I'm fairly certain that I remember hearing that it was done by someone riding a city e-bike. which should give them a really decent place to start because you do city e-bikes through the app, so you have an account that allows you to use the e-bike, and there's only so many e-bikes out at one time.
Yeah.
Then you look at the e-bikes within a area where it is possible that they could be there, and you can limit it down fairly quick.
Now, Frosted, do you mean big wheel or the big wheeled bike? Because those are... I can picture both, which would be hilarious either way.
I could have sworn the footage showed that the guy had an e-bike, then he walked up at the very end, shot the guy, and then hopped on his e-bike again. I could be wrong, but I thought that was what was done in that one.
I'm going to read that one because that's...
And like I said, if that is the case, and if they have a clear picture, then what you do is you start with the e-bike that are out within the area, and then you go through those to figure out which of them looks like the dude that you have a picture of.
No, I don't want to sign up for the New York Times.
Yeah, I figured most of them are probably geo-tracked as well, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if the geo-tracking is not exactly durable and that cities haven't been properly maintaining it entirely. Which is why I'm going, at the very least, they should be able to see who got an e-bike in the app, where they got them, eliminate anyone that's too far away.
Let's see here. New photos released as NYPD hunt insurance boss killer. Police in New York have released 2 photos of the unmasked individual wanted wanted for questioning. Bitch, we know you did it. Over the killing of healthcare chief executive. United Healthcare boss Brian Thompson, 50, was fatally shot in the back on Wednesday morning outside the Hilton Hotel in Midtown Manhattan. The attacker fled the scene without taking any of Thompson's belongings. Police believe the victim was targeted in a pre-planned killing. I mean, clearly, because, yeah, he just shot him and went on his merry way. Investigators are also using facial recognition technology and bullet casings with cryptic messages written on them to track down the suspect. They have yet to reveal a motive in this shooting. Here's what we know about the suspect and the investigation.
Would facial ID software be determining who an AI image is based off of?
Fecal tracking?
Yeah. We have an AI-generated image.
We got his finger up his bum.
Oh, that'd be fecal tracking.
Let's see here. The shooting took place about 6:45 Eastern in a busy part of Manhattan. And for someone who works in insurance, no one talked about this.
Which is strange.
Me and my coworker kind of mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no one in our team's chats never even talked about it.
That's unusual.
Yeah. But I didn't want to be the one to be the Debbie Downer and just be like, so that guy got shot, right?
Yeah, but it still seems like if you're in the industry, that there would have been some mention of it. That, oh yeah, by the way, this shit's happening. We don't know if it's just an issue with this guy or if they don't like the entire industry.
Well, if they didn't like the entire industry, it would be more than just this guy.
Or there will be more over time.
Or there
is
will
the
be.
other
Yeah.
option.
That is very true.
Because it's possible that it's more than just this guy, but this guy was the first target.
Let's see. The shooting took place at 6:45, busy part of Manhattan, close to Times Square in Central Park. Thompson had been scheduled to speak at an investor conference later in the day. According to police, the suspect, who was clad in a black face mask and light brown or cream-colored jacket, appeared to be waiting for Thompson for 5 minutes outside the Hilton Hotel, where he was expected to speak. Thompson, who arrived on foot, was shot in the back and leg and was pronounced dead a half an hour later at the local hospital. He did not meet his deductible.
Yeah, it seems like if it's in your industry at the very least, it should have been mentioned, and it's very strange that it wasn't.
I agree, because I think the only people that talked about it was me and my coworker and someone who just happened to be passing as we were talking about it. But yeah, even in the other departments, never heard a thing about it.
Yeah, that's unusual.
Let's see. There's your section. After the shooting, video shows the suspect fleeing on foot. Oh. And officials initially said the suspect used an electric city bike owned by Lyft. But Lyft, which owns and operates City Bike, later said it had been told by the NYPD that one of its vehicles had not been used, according to BBC's U.S. partners CBS News.
Okay, so it was originally reported, but they've gone back and gone, nah, is what the deal was with that?
It sounds like it.
Okay. Then that makes more sense. Because, yeah, I heard the original reports of a city e-bike was used, and I'm going, okay, so bare minimum, you can narrow down your suspect pool by looking at who had an e-bike out in a range that they could have been the person and investigate from there. And that's assuming that the GPS isn't working for some reason.
Yeah.
But if it was entirely on foot, that makes sense why it's as big of an issue with trying to locate them as it is. Because then, yeah, it's anyone who could have been in the city at that time in that area.
The words denied, defend, and deposed were written on the casings.
Yep.
Well, only one of those I can say is part of the insurance jargon. The other two, not so much. At least not my knowledge.
Yeah, the personally inscribed bullets was an interesting touch, or rather casings.
Now, it makes me wonder why they would go after, like, the head guy. Because, I mean, granted, he's the head guy, but he's not making those type of decisions.
Yep, but there's the thing that's in vogue, which is anyone who makes above a certain amount of money is clearly evil because there's no
Yeah.
moral way of earning that money, as people on a certain side of the matter like to phrase it.
Well, I mean, to make it in the business, I guess you'd have to dip your toes into some cesspool. Like it's not going to be all clean from,
Potentially with
customer service all the way up.
Yeah, potentially with the industry that he was in, but they will say that about anyone, and I'm going,
Yeah.
okay, so you make a product that people really want and they buy a shit ton of it, and because you have stock in your company that you made, you become wealthy. That's a very easy way of earning a fuck ton of money morally.
Yeah.
And yeah, there'll be some industries that it is much harder to do moral earning, but the anyone above this income is clearly immoral. What the fuck's wrong with you? Stop that stupid shit.
Rotten says, I believe he ordered an AI bot to be made to do auto denials, which I really wish that, because our company's been pushing AI too, and it's like, we can't even get that right. So can we just not do that at all? Because that would be asinine.
Yeah. That's just asking for more problems.
Let's see here. This is one of the two stories that my wife... Oh, go ahead.
The thing that annoys the shit out of me is that there were other options when insurance companies started up. Because first off, people would pay out of pocket. That was one way. Then it started getting expensive when you were going for more modern treatments. Because the shit that we've had for decades, that shit's cheap as hell. The one that drives me crazy whenever people mention it is they'll compare insulin prices, and they'll compare insulin prices from the 70s and 90s.
Yeah.
Which there was one type of insulin in the 70s and 90s. It was regular insulin. That's a type of insulin, not just a description of insulin.
Yeah.
And that in the 90s, if you adjust the price for inflation, if I remember correctly, I did this a while ago, it comes out to $36 a vial. Do you know how much you can get a vial of regular insulin for now?
I believe it is up to 100 and late 100, like 180, something like that.
The 100 and up is blended insulin, which has a couple different types. You can get regular insulin from Walmart, for instance, which is an OTC medication. You don't need a prescription for insulin, for regular insulin. You can get that for $25 a vial. You've been able to get it for $25 a vial since 2011. There's other insulins, which is where the issue comes in, because they'll look at modern insulins, which modern insulins tend to be a blend of insulins, because we have regular insulin, which, if I remember correctly, is a instantaneous insulin. Then there's delayed action insulin. There's intermediate action insulin. There's long-acting insulin. And there's sustained action, I want to say it is. It's another type of insulin.
Yeah.
And the most expensive modern insulins are a blend of 3 to 5 different types of insulins. So yeah, there's insulins that are $250, $350 a pop. Those are insulins that have been developed within the past decade or two.
Hey, Mr. Yes.
Whereas if you're going for regular insulin, which again is the insulin of the 70s, it was the insulin of the 90s, that you can get for as cheap as $25 a pop at pretty much any pharmacy, and it's an OTC, over the counter. You don't need a prescription for it.
Actually, Rotten, since you mentioned that, back before I don't live on the plains, Mr. Yes. I'm in the mountains. Back when I was still kind of a rookie, didn't know much about, the Affordable Care Act that came later. But I do know that when the nurses would use like the last of the rubber gloves that are in the room, whenever our clients were in the hospital, they would bill them if they replaced the box. So what I would do when I felt that no one was watching, which I don't know, it wasn't like it was some super sneaky thing, but they would bill if they replace a box. So it's like, okay, well, new box, you're the sucker who gets stuck with this. And so what I would do is I would take the box that is nearly empty and I would go to the nurse's station and switch the box with a box that they had there.
Nicely done.
And so I would put a either partially full or moderately full box in the client's room.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, and there you go. Like, although I think by then, like, they were like, anytime you used a glove, you were getting billed for it.
Yeah, it is frustrating because there used to be other ways that you could get fairly cheap healthcare. One of them was
don't get sick.
Mutual aid societies. That was one of the highlights of being part of a mutual aid society, was you got really cheap healthcare. Because the mutual aid society would typically employ a doctor for the mutual aid society. And that doctor would be a doctor for anyone in the mutual aid society. So you were sick, you'd go to the mutual aid society doctor office, and they would give you your prescription meds. And it was paid for through the dues to the society. It was one of the things that made people want to sign up for the societies and gave them other advantages, because there were a bunch of advantages to being part of a mutual aid society. Now, a good chunk of those advantages have been slowly but surely outlawed by the government. The medical care for mutual aid societies was outlawed in the early it was the early 20th century, if I remember correctly, was when they ended up doing that shit. And it makes no fucking sense, because why? Why did you go, hey, mutual aid societies, you aren't allowed to provide health care? It's bullshit. And then because we kept on restricting what could be done, what was left became more and more expensive. And then we have a shit ton of issues going on with why medical care is so expensive, and this is something that drives me up a wall anytime that I hear people talk about it, because they will get some of the things. Normally they'll get maybe one of the things, but a lot of people don't even get one, and they'll go, oh, it's just greed. Well, if you really want to decrease the price of medical care, there's a few things that you could tackle right away. Change how litigious we are when it comes to medical practice, because when you go into a doctor's office or into a hospital, let's use a hospital example, you're paying for the malpractice for the doctor that sees you, every doctor that sees you, for every nurse that sees you, for every aide that sees you, for the pharmacy at the hospital that sees you, for the institution itself, because at every fucking level, there is some form of insurance to deal with getting sued. All of that's being paid for. We could make it available to have cheaper options in care. So one of the examples that I always use is in the US. When was the last time that you were in a hospital, Johnny?
Like hospital?
Yes.
Millennia ago. I think it was almost 10 years. Almost 10 years this year.
Did you have a solo, a double, or multi when it came to the number of beds in your room?
It is a solo.
That's what the vast majority of US rooms are. Vast majority of hospital rooms are solos. Solos are the most expensive sort of room that you could have at a hospital. Doubles are cheaper than solos, but more expensive than triples. Triples are cheaper than doubles and solos, but more expensive than quads and wards. And the cheapest option is a ward.
Yeah.
But people tend to choose the more expensive option. Which, that, if people were willing to take the lower option, we could make the lower option available. At least in certain cases. You can't make it available in all cases. If someone is in for a droplet precaution, you can't stick them in a ward.
Or like at the time, COVID.
Yep. So you have the litigiousness. You have us choosing more expensive care options. You have the bloat of middle management at pretty much every hospital in the nation, because the number of administrators in hospitals has been skyrocketing while the number of doctors relative to patients has been more or less constant. Which is something that we kind of see mirrored in schools, for instance. One of the reasons why schools cost so much more now is because admin staffs, I think if I remember reading a paper correctly, admin staffs at schools have expanded by 900% in a time when the student body grew by 50. Which is a fucking huge increase in admin. So we have the litigiousness, we have the admin bloat, we have the fact that we choose pricier options. Those are probably the three main factors. There's a handful of others, some of those not really something that we could fix or should fix. But those are three that would be fairly easy to give options for and to try to fix. And when it comes to litigiousness, the easiest way of dealing with it is just build in an element of protection into the laws that allow them to sue, or allow us to sue for fucking anything, because there's a major difference between someone actually doing the wrong thing in medical practice and you having a negative reaction to the right treatment. And we don't have as much distinction in law as we should when it comes to that. Sorry about hijacking for a bit of a tirade right now.
No, that's fine. No, it's funny because everyone points, and yeah, you're not wrong entirely with the government getting their nose into things.
Yep. Oh, another thing that is a massive issue. Are you familiar with what? Well, you most assuredly are. You know what PBMs are, of course, right?
Pharmacy benefit managers.
Yep. So, have you heard about the relationship between pharmacy benefit managers, their incentives, and the price of insulin?
No.
The pharmacy benefit managers, particularly the ones for the government, because yes, the government has pharmacy benefit managers, because they have two of the largest health programs within the nation. They have kind of fucked up incentives where the manager is incentivized to select the more expensive options for coverage. And for having on hand, they are disincentivized from choosing the cheaper option. And they've let companies know this. And there's instances that are documented and have been talked about at length in various bits of reporting where they will turn down a drug at one price and they'll respond back, if this drug was a little bit more expensive, then we'd be able to give it the green light. For it to then have its price bumped up just that little bit and then given a green light.
Cough, cough, weight loss drugs.
Insulin's one of them as well. The other main thing when it comes to insulin prices, when it comes to new insulin prices, let me phrase it that way, because again, regular insulin can be purchased for as little as $25 per 100 milliliter vial, which is a standard vial of insulin. You can get 100 mil, 100 mil, then 500 and 1,000, if I remember correctly. Those are the normal sizes, right?
Maybe.
Or is
It's been a while. It's been a while since I looked at my son's vials.
I want to say it's 100 mil, 500,000. I could be off. It could be shifted up or down.
Actually,
But
let me see if I can.
I know that
I have a being that I'm covered under my insurance. I have a thing I can look up.
because I want to say that the vials are often listed as deciliters, so it'd be 10. It'd be 10, 50, 100 for decis. Is it deci or is it centi? It's one of those two. But yeah, I want to say that's the right sizing. 100, 500,000. But again, for standard size vial, you can get it for as cheap as $25. The other main problem when it comes to the more expensive insulins, the newer insulins, is even ones that are technically out of patent date by now, there is effectively a regulatory triopoly. So 3 companies that are the only companies that are allowed to make insulins of certain types by the regulatory framework. Which, when only 3 people are able to make something, it becomes more expensive.
Let's see here. Novolog, it just allows for the 100 unit milliliter injection solution.
Okay, so yeah, that's the 100 mil. That's the standard size vial. You can get a vial that is 5 times larger, the 500. You can get one that is 10 times larger, the 1,000.
And that's if they let you do it.
Yes. That's if they let you get it.
Do I get a 10% discount on your insurance? If by discount you mean the 10% more, yeah.
But yeah, like I said, when it comes to insulin, you can get
it. It's really funny because I've had someone call in and they're just like, "Well, you work for this, so your insurance has to be great." And I laughed in her face. And it's recorded, so I'm probably going to get in trouble for that. Because my insurance is shit compared to my wife's.
Mm-hmm.
And I work for a company, so it's
it's interesting where you can get decent health coverage through your employer and where you can't. Also, another thing that the government did that is annoying as hell when it comes to that is when insurance first started to be offered, it wasn't taxed as part of your compensation. The government decided that it should be taxed as part of your compensation, which means that it became far more expensive to offer it. And just like how payroll taxes have a documented history of suppressing wages, having a tax on the employer-provided health insurance as if it was dollar amount compensations, that means that the price of that gets fucked with rather substantially. Oh yeah. Once it's on the books, it becomes an absolute bastard to break it.
the app's down, so never mind.
Hmm?
The app's down, so I had to kind of just go based off of what it would let me find.
Mm-hmm. But as, let's see, who was it that said it? Rotten said, as technology improves, the creation or the per dose cost of medicines on the whole, if you're looking at like for like, has been decreasing. The problem is that we tend to compare treatment for disease X to current treatment for disease X. So you'll hear a lot of people saying, well, the cost of cancer meds has skyrocketed over the past 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that you don't get the same meds now that you did 40 years ago. You get substantially different meds now than you did 40 years ago. And the newer meds, which have fewer side effects, they still have a fuck ton of side effects because cancer meds aren't fun, but they have fewer side effects than the original generations did. Were expensive to produce, and they're new. They're expensive to make still. As time goes on, those meds become cheaper, but also we develop new meds. And those new meds are expensive when they're first developed. So, again, it's the comparing the insulin price of the 90s to the insulin price today. Well, if you compare like to like, insulin price today is like a third cheaper. If you compare insulin as a whole, then yeah, insulin today is more expensive because we have more types and more different blends and ones that you don't have to take as often. We also have insulins that you've heard of insulin OD or insulin poisoning before, right?
They mentioned it when my son got diagnosed. Because my thought was, what happens if I should accidentally inject even a little bit into me?
Yep. You have to start downing sugar, effectively.
Yeah, drink a pop and get to the hospital is what she says.
Yeah. Drink orange juice, drink a soda, eat some cookies, and go to the hospital. Because what happens is that your glucose in the system, in your bloodstream, plummets. And you get to experience what...
Plummet is kind of selling it a little light. The way that it was described to me. This would be like, I don't know, you're on a plane, and instead of just gradually falling down, the plane just goes into an immediate nosedive.
Yep. And it causes you to go through hypoglycemia. And hypoglycemia is very similar to being drunk in how you present outwardly. You have altered mental status, you kind of slur your speech, you have trouble maintaining your balance. So you seem drunk, but you have no alcohol in your system. It's just you don't have enough sugar in your bloodstream. So there's some of the modern insulins, they're designed so that they're harder to OD on. Meaning that if you accidentally inject a little bit too much, you aren't going to tank your blood glucose. It's going to be far more gradual, far easier to maintain your sugar levels, so it isn't as immediate of an issue. Whereas with regular insulin, there's a good chance that you can OD on regular insulin if you aren't careful. And that discovery costs money. Producing that costs money. And they have been getting cheaper as time goes on with each specific type of insulin. As time goes on, producing that specific type of insulin gets more affordable. But we keep on developing even safer versions. And ones that don't need as many injections. So regular insulin. If you were just using regular insulin, it's normally you have to inject yourself 3 times a day. Because you inject around each of your meals.
Yeah, essentially at meal times.
Yep. Whereas there's more modern insulins that you inject yourself twice a day. There's some that you inject yourself once. Just one every day. So they're different meds that are under the same category, so they're being treated as if they're the same. They aren't. They're different things. And yeah, it's annoying as hell when you have MRI scheduled and it's using an older machine, but because of staffing and all the other bullshit around it, the price is going up. And I was responding to Rotten saying his problem is the increasing price of something like an MRI, but still having an outdated machine.
Yeah. So on a bit of a lighter note,
Yep.
I watched Critical Drinker's video on the Snow White trailer,
Okay.
and it came out yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was recording it, it had 125,000 dislikes on it.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the video, it said it jumped to 175,000 likes. And I looked at it now. How many dislikes do you think it has now? One day after Drinker's video.
How many dislikes?
Dislikes.
What was the number that you said it had after
I think it was
you
100.
watched it?
I think it was 179,000. And I'll be generous and give it a full 24 hours.
How many dislikes? Let's say 4 times that.
Let's see. According to... Because, of course, you know, it's going to shorten the number. 1.4 million.
God damn.
Yeah.
So over 10 times.
Yeah, 1.4 million dislikes on this video.
I haven't seen anything on the Snow White. I'm guessing it is absolutely god-awful. I think I saw one image that was of the dwarves and it was so bad, part of me was thinking that it was just a meme someone had made to make fun of how bad it was. Because the dwarves looked like fucking bearded Keebler elves.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Was that the actual image of the dwarves from it?
Yeah.
God damn it, what's...
You can thank Peter Dinklage for that.
I wish that we could go back to people producing good stories with good visuals, or at least have one of those, rather than this let's make things look hideous and tell fucked up stories that don't make any goddamn sense.
Yeah, it used to be the 7 magical beings, which, yeah, like Frosted, or like Rotten said, they look like hippies. It's just all commune residing hippies.
And is this the one that has been in development and filming hell ever since Peter Dinklage came out and made sure that
no dwarves were hired in this? Yeah.
Because originally they had hired actual dwarves, and then
No, they hired a dwarf.
I thought they had hired multiple dwarves, and then he flipped his shit. They fired all but one. because his whole complaint was it's insulting having to play a dwarf as a dwarf. And it's... do you really want Tiptoes?
Okay, Gimli, take it easy.
Because Tiptoes is what you get if you try to have non-dwarves play dwarves, unless you're going for, like, Peter Jackson and John Rhys Davies as Gimli. But there's a better chance of getting Tiptoes than Gimli.
A ladder is generous. It was a stepping stool, as I think it was. Not Critical Drinker. It was Nerdrotic that said that.
Say again?
Say it wasn't a ladder. It was a stepping stool.
Yep.
But
Tiptoes was such a fucking weird movie, though, because Frosted, after me mentioning it, said that he would love a Tiptoes sequel.
Tiptoes.
Oh, do you not know what Tiptoes is?
I am not familiar.
Gary Oldman plays a dwarf. Every other dwarf in the movie is played by a dwarf. But the lead dwarf is played by Gary Oldman on his knees.
And Peter Dinklage.
Yes. Peter Dinklage plays the hypersexual French dwarf in the movie, who's the main dwarf's, like, best friend. And it's... damn it, who's Gary Oldman's brother in that again?
McConaughey.
Yes. McConaughey is Gary Oldman's brother. McConaughey has a girlfriend turned wife that then he gets pregnant and he starts freaking out because he's the only normal-sized person in his family. So he's worried that the child will come out as a dwarf. Despite dwarf is a dominant trait, and if you have 2 copies of the dwarf gene, you're dead. So if you come out normal from 2 dwarven parents, you don't have the dwarf gene. But he was freaked out that his child might be a dwarf, so he started being an asshole, and his dwarven brother ends up stealing his wife, effectively. It is a very strange movie.
Yeah, I have this picture here.
Yes.
That is odd.
Yeah. So for that scene, they had to cut a hole in the couch. So he's kneeling on the ground with a couch around him and fake legs thrown over the top.
Oh, I figured they would have had his ass buried in the back.
If I remember correctly, he's effectively kneeling in a hole that they made in the couch. But yeah, you get Matthew McConaughey yelling, "I'm a dwarf!" He's not a dwarf. He's the son of 2 dwarves, but he's normal height. He doesn't have the dwarven gene. It's kind of like giantism. Giantism is the same way. If you have 2 copies of giantism, you're dead. All giants only have one copy of the giantism gene. But yeah, if two dwarves fuck, they have a quarter chance that they're going to have a normal height child. But it is a strange movie. And the strangest part was you can tell that it was meant to be Oscar bait as you're watching it, which just makes it so much funnier.
Nice.
Man, I wish that John Rhys Davies was in Tiptoes as well.
How old is that movie? I think it's like 2003? 7?
Tiptoes? I want to say it was
Three.
late 90s.
2003.
Okay, so it is early 2000s. But yeah, I would have paid good money if they'd figured out a way of getting John Rhys Davies, and fuck it, throw in Brian Blessed as well as dwarves and Tiptoes. Well, the thing is that the argument that Dinklage had about the fucking movie made no goddamn sense. If you don't want dwarves just cast as dwarves, absolutely. That makes sense to me. Saying that good dwarven actors should be able to get roles where they aren't just being the dwarven character. They're just a character who happens to be a dwarf because the actor happens to be a dwarf, but there's nothing where this character is supposed to be a dwarf. I'm trying to remember which movie it was that he was in that was the case. I want to say he was a lawyer in a movie. And there was nothing that the lawyer was supposed to be a dwarf. There wasn't really any mention of the lawyer being a dwarf in the movie, but he was the lawyer.
I know that there was a movie he was in. It was kind of like a sort of like a survival horror movie type. See if I can remember, if I can find it here.
That's cheating. He can't run very fast. But yeah, I can understand if that was his argument, but no. What he was saying in his bit, in his tirade against Snow White, was they shouldn't hire dwarves to play the dwarves in Snow White because it's insulting to have dwarves play dwarves. The fuck are you on about?
Yeah. Where the hell is that?
That'd be like saying it's insulting having black people play the slaves in the color purple.
Or Roots.
Or Roots. You shouldn't cast black people as the slaves in Roots. It should be a shit ton of Irishmen. So all he did was he had a bunch of dwarves get fired from a job that was willing to pay them money. and now we have CGI abominations. It wasn't going to be a good movie with them in it, but at least it would have given them a paycheck.
Let's see. No, I can't find it now. Here's him playing Cyrano de Bergerac.
Wait, Dinklage played de Bergerac?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
But he's a
I don't
midget.
think I ever saw him play.
I think it's on.
Bergerac.
I think I saw it on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, like I said, good on him.
So it's not like he can't act. He's just a dick.
Oh no, he's a good actor.
Like,
but yeah, it seems like he's a bit of a prick. And he's a prick in a way that denies other actors the ability to act in a movie that they were hired for, which is the weirdest fucking thing.
I can't find the movie I was thinking of. It must be older than I'm thinking it is. But essentially, he is living in a house. There's like no one around.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, this girl just turns up. And he's like down on something. Something bad must have happened. I didn't watch the movie. I watched the trailer for it, but yeah, it was pretty much, him racked with guilt over something and trying to survive or like take this lady hostage. Like, I don't know. I can't find it. So I'll have to come back to that.
Mm-hmm.
If I can find it. Was he in both Death at a Funerals? He was in both Death at a Funerals.
Yeah, I think so.
As two different guys.
Oh. That's strange that it's two different guys.
Let's see.
But yeah, it was just a real fucking dick move to shout down a movie because they were hiring actors looking for work. It'd be one thing to say the movie's being a bit of a dick if they were being discriminatory towards the actors in some way. Then, okay, sure, I could understand if they're giving them like a half of a dressing room and saying, well, it works out. It's the same given your body size. Okay, yeah, be a bit pissed off about that, sure. But just being pissed off that there's a movie that is a fucking classic.
Found it.
That has dwarves in it and they're hiring dwarves? What the fuck's wrong with you?
Let's see. The apocalypse proves a blessing in disguise for one lucky recluse until a second survivor arrives with the threat of companionship.
Ah.
And they're played by Ellie Fanning. There's literally 5 actors in this movie. Peter Dinklage, Ellie Fanning, Charlotte Gainsborough, and Paul Giamatti, and Elaine Apruzzi.
I have a feeling I'd need to see the name in order to know what the fuck you just butchered.
I think We're Alone Now is the name of the movie.
Okay. Is the song from the movie, or did they name the movie after the song?
I don't know. But yeah, he goes around house to house and he's like burying people.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
But yeah. But as I am starting to fade, I have one more story that we are going to end on a high note.
Okay.
And with this one, if I can get that pulled up here, from K-Pax out of Missoula, Montana AG Network. Community steps up to help 3-year-old in cancer battle.
Oh, good. A nice, heartwarming story.
Yes. Let's see. Haver. Wynn Murphy is a 3-year-old Haver cowgirl who lives an idyllic life on the family ranch south of Haver with her parents Brady and Lindsay and 2 siblings Whitley and Warren. Wynn loves to play outdoors and especially loves taking care of her horse Bob. Her grandparents Lon and Stacy Wade describe her as wild and independent. But a few short months ago, everything changed. She had some headaches, nausea, and balance issues and just kind of stumbled around, Brady said. She just was not herself all the time. An eye doctor and Haver noticed swelling behind her eyes. A series of appointments led the Murphy family into the Seattle Children's Hospital, where they received the diagnosis no parent wants to hear. They sent us down to the emergency room here, where they did some CAT scans, and that's kind of where they first saw the mass, Brady said. So in the test results, it came back with a metastatic medulloblastoma. And so it's just a fast-growing cancer tumor.
Medulloblastoma. Sorry, I needed to find where that line was.
By the time the tumor was discovered, it was already the size of a mandarin orange, and doctors predicted it had been growing for about 3 months. It was centered at the base of her brain and presented spinal fluid from cycling and draining, which led to swelling and symptoms. At that moment, their lives were turned upside down. It's hard to hear the word cancer, Lindsay said. It seems that the world should just stop all the way around you, and it doesn't.
Well, it's easy to hear it. It's hard to accept it.
Yeah.
It's as easy to hear as any other word.
Hey, Six, how's it going? Let's see here.
Hey, Six.
Wynn underwent surgery in early November, where doctors were able to remove 99% of the tumor. The remaining 1% was too close to the brainstem to remove. Honestly, 2 days later, she was herself, and it was pretty remarkable. Her overall prognosis was good, and she will remain in Seattle to undergo a 6-week chemotherapy treatments to try to eliminate the rest of the cancer. The road will be long, hard, but Wynn is highline tough. It's pretty intensive chemo. They've been pretty aggressive with it, Brady said. There are some cruddy days, but I think she's won over most of the nurses and doctors. They're all amazed at how well she takes her medicine, and it takes everything in stride. With an extended hospital stay comes hardships for the family, Brady is on leave from his job as a game warden, but is only guaranteed 6 weeks, while Wynn's treatment will last for 13. They're hundreds of miles from home, navigating treatment and separation from the rest of their extended family. Right now, Brady and Lindsay are staying in Seattle with Wynn, while Whitley and Warren are back on their ranch under the care of Lindsay's parents, Lon and Stacy Wade. We got extra rooms, so there was no. We got extra rooms. There was just no question the kids would stay with us, Stacy said. But in the meantime, friends, family, and complete strangers have stepped up to lighten the burden on Lindsay, Brady, and the children. There's a Facebook page called Win for Win, and has updates on Wynn's medical journey and information about fundraising and support efforts. T-shirts have been sold. What was it?
There was a question from Tyr. What is that? I think in respect to the
movie.
It was to the movie?
Yeah.
I thought it was more recent. Okay, never mind. Carry on. I thought he was asking about the cancer, and I was going to quickly say what the words in the cancer name mean.
Let's see. T-shirts have been sold. Bank accounts have been established on Monday, December 9th. The Wade family will partner with Bear Paw Livestock in Chinook to sell some bred cows and heifers for proceeds going to the Wynn Murphy Medical Fund. There's not much we can do here, but one thing we do is raise cattle, Lon said. We just want someone to buy them for our granddaughter's sake. Even if they can't, they're sending prayers. The family is covered in prayer. All is an effort to win for Wynn. When we first got to Seattle, we started a list to keep track to send thank you cards and everything. Brady said, and honestly, we gave up on that. Truly, it's overwhelming. We can't thank everyone enough. If all goes according to plan, Wynn and the Murphy family will return home in the spring with grateful hearts and a clean bill of health. It will just be nice to be back and to be home and be normal. Whatever the normal looks like, Brady said. We hope to just pick up where we left off. Hopefully cancer-free. So yeah, that's no place you need to be, but a bred cow.
Glad people are coming out to help, though.
Yeah. It's a cow for breeding. That's what it is. But yeah, no, we'll end it out on a high note there.
Mm-hmm.
And since it is the first week of the weekend of the month, you will not be doing that tomorrow?
Yes, I will not be doing it tomorrow. Tomorrow, I believe, was Adam is taking over for tomorrow.
All right.
Tyr, it is Adam tomorrow, right? Tyr is the other one that it might be. But I think it's Adam tomorrow. Tyr is next week. Because this month, I go do my early Christmas thing. So I'm going to be missing for 2 Fridays, or rather 3 Fridays in a row, because this one, next one, and the following.
Yeah. All right, Adam tomorrow.
Okay.
But with that, the zoo is closed. Have a good night, all.
Have a good night, all.